Luka Dončić registers arguably his best performance of the season, and the Lakers' strong road trip continues. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends, even on holidays, no matter where you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple, whether that's Spotify. Maybe you're one of the 37,000 plus subscribers to Locked On Lakers on YouTube. No matter how you're doing it, you're part of making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in any universe that certainly Andy and I know of. Brian Kamenetsky with Andy Kamenetsky covered the Lakers for nearly 20 years with the LA Times, with ESPN, with The Athletic, and it's in all that time, it's been a treat to see some of the Lakers stars. Luca putting in a performance as good as any of those star performances on Monday in Chicago. He throttled the Bulls for 46 points on a hyper efficient 15 of 25, 8 of 14 from 3-point range, seven rebounds, 12 assists, only 3 turnovers. And this was, pretty close to as sublime a Luka game, I think, as you're going to find. A joy to watch from start to finish.
It was part of a night,
by the way, 129-118.
It was part of a night where Luka made some, relatively low key, but still pretty impressive history. He is the fastest Laker to reach 2,000 points as a Laker. It had been George Mikan before, who did it in 72 games. Luka does it in 65. And that is, both those guys, by the way, that is stunningly quick work to 2,000 points. And we're going to get into a lot of different elements of Luka's game, but one part of it that really jumped out at me when I was thinking about his box score and thinking about the context of it, he finished the first quarter with 3 turnovers, which is obviously high in one quarter. He ended the game with 3 turnovers, meaning he went the next 3 clean. And between his usage and some of the passes that he threw, which were absolutely insane, just the degree of control that he exercised in this game. There's a lot to compliment with Luka, but that in particular, when I really started thinking about it, because in the first quarter, the only thing that jumped out at me as a potential negative with Luka was taking care of the ball. By the end of the game, that was off the list.
Yeah, and Lakers as a team only turned the ball over 6 times in this game. They took excellent care of the ball as a group. So, if you want to keep Chicago, who's a very good offensive team, they do like to get out, run around on the open floor. Every team wants to take advantage of the Lakers in that way. If you only turn the ball over 6 times, you can cover up a lot of sins defensively. Not the Lakers. Lakers put on a lot of pressure and all of that, and forced a lot of turnovers for the Bulls, especially in that first half, as they built up a large lead. But you could just see it. Luka gets this look when he knows he's locked in, and he knows that it doesn't matter what you're going to try to do as a defense. It's not going to work because he can see it coming before you can do it. You try those strong doubles, he can find the open man easily. They do not bother him. You'll see him sometimes back up, as he sort of, to create that space. So now the double's coming super high on the floor, a place where other guards may not want to get trapped. Luka's like, come. Let me create this space because I know I can get a pass to wherever I want on the floor. The shot making was incredibly good. Obviously, the 3-pointer was, certainly on point in this game. From an offensive performance, it was just a genuinely masterful exhibition of controlling a game when you're on the floor.
It was interesting too, because JJ's talked recently, and this was, in many ways, it was a conversation about Luka, because Luka, along with LeBron and Austin, when he eventually comes back, they have the ball the most. And he was talking about how the passing or lack thereof on certain nights can affect the overall defense, and just the less the ball moves around, the less the other guys feel engaged defensively and like truly.
Absolutely.
But one of the things I noticed tonight, where Luka was on this absolute heater as, you know, a distributor, and again, just some of the passes he made in this game were really next level, whether setting up guys for 3-pointers or cross-court passes, or this baseline wraparound that he threw to Vando for a baseline dunk off a dive.
That one was so good.
It-
That was so good.
One of the things I noticed is a night like tonight, where Luka was truly just deep in his bag on all counts offensively, it picked up his own energy defensively. Like the third quarter against the Bulls, which was basically the only rough part of this game for the Lakers defensively, Chicago was hitting everything from outside. One of the guys, though, that actually was contesting threes the most during that period was actually Luka. Like I rewatched part of that third quarter as things were falling apart. And one of the things that jumped out at me was Luka making some of the most consistent effort to get out to those shooters. So it just felt like Luka was just completely energized in putting on a show and wanting to lead this win. And similar to how other guys touching the ball via the pass can raise their own defensive engagement just because they feel more involved, it felt like it raised Luka's own defense as the guy doing the passing.
When he's, I think it's just, some of it's just a function of feeling dominant, of being locked in, of, you know, that first half offensively, the Lakers offense was moving and scoring very effectively. LeBron, who finished with 24, had 20 of them in the first half. So, you know, he was dominant early. Luka was dominant. Rui got off to a really good start that sustained itself throughout the game. We'll talk about him before we're done. And, you know, that just, you know, raises everybody's energy like that. You know, I mentioned before that the Lakers constantly forcing turnovers from Chicago, jumping in passing lanes, you know, knocking, you know, poking the ball away, a lot of really active hands, creating easy offense for them in the other way. And, you know, it's so rare. It seems rare, at least, to have these games where it feels like the Lakers are the team that is generating the easy offense. It is really nice to see, you know, defense turned into offense, breaking up plays, grabbing rebounds, securing the boards, and just making their lives easier to go play on the other end.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chicago is a terrible defense, so it helps the Lakers in terms of generating their own cleaner offense. But I will say they are a good offensive team.
Right.
So what the Lakers did defensively against this team, in that respect, I actually think speaks to something that they were doing well, because while scoring against the Bulls may not be the most impressive feat in the world, holding them down to a reasonable number actually is.
Well, it's scoring, but what I was getting at though is it's scoring. It's not scoring in the half court against the Bulls. It's how much they generated offense off of turnovers, off of busting possessions from a good offensive team to go get points on the other end.
Yeah, and you know, Chicago, they average about 14 turnovers a game. The Lakers turn them over 15 times, so it's basically normal for them, but the Lakers were very good at capitalizing on those turnovers and just putting an already bad defense on its heels. And they scored 23 points off those turnovers, which is a really good night. And the defense for the Lakers, you know, obviously we need to see a longer, more sustained sample size, but it is starting to look at the very least more. This is going to sound, I mean, I guess it is a backhanded compliment, but I think the audience is going to understand what I mean because they've been watching the opening, 40-ish games. It's becoming competently passable. And if your baseline is competently passable and you can get your offense to where everybody expected it would be for opening this season, and Austin Reeves will certainly help with that when he comes back. If you have a really high-end offense and somewhere between a competently passable and maybe solid plus, and then for like the last 5 minutes of a game, very good defense, you can do something with that. Like that is a workable formula.
The Lakers, they've got 3 really good players, like really good. And if you can find something in Rui, for example,
well, they sure as hell did tonight.
They did. And, somewhere in the center position, which is getting a little distressing, which we'll talk about, if not in this episode this week. It's not that far away from being a team that, again, is not a pleasant playoff matchup at the very least. Let's talk about Rui Hachimura, who was bananas in this game in terms of how productive he was. We'll get to it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things over and then move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms. As somebody who's had to deal with all of those different things, that is a nightmare to try to figure out on your own and to work to get you every deduction. Also key, huge, big time saver, and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert's handling it, not you. Let's be honest, no offense, you don't know what you're doing. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate, get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today.
Do want to let people know, Andy, that the NBA trade deadline is basically here. And we want to give you a free month now of our new Everydayer Club to help you get ready. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, join ours. The Everydayer Club gives you access to a group chat on Discord just for Locked On Lakers listeners, plus national chats where you can hang out with fans from across the league. Andy and I will be popping in and out. You get input from all the Locked On hosts if you're joining those national chats. A great way to keep up with what's going on as the deadline comes around. You'll also get ad-free versions of this show. And if you sign up by the deadline on February 5th, you can use the code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more about the Everydayer Club. Or you can go to lockedonlakers.supercast.com. It's $5 a month, $50 a year. But with that code, Andy, deadline, you can get that first month for free.
I actually responded to a question in the Discord that was not specifically addressed to me or Brian, but it involved the Lakers. So I just chimed in. And whoever that person was seemed to really appreciate it. It generated some conversation. It was a trade suggestion that I found, if nothing else, interesting. So I decided to give my 2 cents.
So what was the magic number you said of Rui getting more shots, I believe, in Monday's show? Was moving to the bench. He's up to 12 a night.
It was the previous 3 games before Chicago when Rui seemed to be off his minutes limit. He was playing either 28 or 29 minutes in all those games. He was averaging 12.3 shots per game, which is well higher than the 9.5 he was averaging on the season, largely as a starter. Which is, by the way, what you and I said would happen if he moved to the bench.
There's that 20 years of experience, showing up for everybody. So on Monday,
the reason people pay us to do this.
That's right.
This team, yeah.
on Monday, he did not quite get to that magic 12. But Andy, when you make 9 of your 11 shots, you don't need that 12th one. You're doing just fine. The Lakers
still higher than the 9.5 he was averaging.
It's still Lakers found Rui. He was 3 levels on Monday. We saw what he was doing in the mid range. We saw what he was doing from 3-point range. We saw what it means to have a guy who, again, when the ball is, when you get penetration and a kick out or whatever it might be, is a meaningful threat to score. Like Luca is, you saw it on Monday, obviously a threat from 3-point range when he's going well, but he's also the guy generally who starts with the ball. It's a different deal from a spacing standpoint when it's somebody else finishing that play. And Rui is the only laser on this squad. And man, was he lasery in this game. I think I mentioned the 23 points, 9 of 11 shooting, 4 or 5 from 3-point range, a plus 22 in 29 minutes. It is a trend.
He also, too, made some really good defensive plays in this game. He blocked Nikola Vucevic twice. He had a steal on the next possession after, I believe it was the second block. I talked about before how I have noticed over the last handful of games, as Rui has been playing more of these minutes with guys like Vando and Smart and Jackson Hayes and some of the higher motor guys on this team defensively, it's raising his own defensive motor. And also, too, as he has been more directly involved with the offense, as we've mentioned before, it starts raising his own defensive engagement, just his overall engagement, because you just feel like you are a part of things. Like JJ said after the game, they thought that Rui was back in his groove. And he said that he didn't think Rui was playing all that well before the calf injury. Like he had mentioned this. He's like, I'm not calling out Rui. And
right.
I talked about
told
this.
him. He had told him
right.
as much.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think there is a direct connection to Rui having slumped to some degree and also barely getting shots, because if you're not using Rui for his primary specialty, the best thing he's good at, you're not going to be satisfied with these secondary, thirdary, and down the line uses of Rui Hachimura. Like if you're not playing into his strengths, what's the point? Yeah. But he's capable of doing some of those other things better. JJ cited his defense being good in this game, in the last few games, in particular his work as a low man. It was funny, like he mentioned also running some more actions for Rui, and that he doesn't love, at least as sort of a theoretical principle, some of the mid-range shots that Rui takes, but he's like, Rui's really good at those. So yes, he can take those. Other guys, I might say seriously don't do it. In the case of Rui, it's fine. Also, Dan Wojcicki, friend of the show, covers the Lakers for The Athletic, has a good piece up about Rui adjusting to this role very happily and doing it very willingly, not worrying about his next contract. One of the quotes in there, a lot of people think about stats and all that, but for me, it's like winning. That's going to help us get everybody paid. And especially with the second unit, I get more touches too. I don't mind. It's more so like who's finishing the game or who's playing more. For me, that's more important.
The minutes are the same, more or less. Played 29 minutes in the game on Monday in Chicago. Over the course of his career with the Lakers, he played 30 a game. He's averaging 30 a game this year. So 29, pretty close. That average is brought down a little bit because of the minutes limits and some of the games.
And also when Austin comes back, the minutes are going to go down a little bit anyway.
Sure. Last year as a starter, he averaged 31 and a half. So in this setup, let's say he's still, I think 28, 29 a game is probably about where he's going to land. And in most situations coming off the bench, if you get a minute and a half, 2.5, 2 minutes less a game, but you get to do more of what you do, you get to be yourself. And, if you're worried about your free agency, you get to put up far better numbers You're doing all that other kind of stuff. You prove your value. It is, I think, relatively easy to give up those 2 minutes of that 2 minutes of floor time. It would be different if moving to the bench meant he was sort of doing the same stuff, except off the bench. This is way different. This is much more allowing Rui to be Rui, because, like you say, there have been nights over the last 2, 3, 4 games when Rui's really started to pick it up. He had 8 rebounds against Dallas. He had 6 against Denver. But generally speaking, Rui Hachimura is a bad rebounder. He always has been. He is always going to be a bad rebounder. He is not somebody who you depend on to get assists, which is why on Saturday, when he pump faked a pass to the corner, and I forget which defender it was that bid on it, you were just like, know your personnel, man. That ball wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
But
that's the one that turned into a 4-point play.
Correct. What he is really good at is scoring. And when he scores, and like you say, that defensive energy when he's in a group that sort of forces him to pick up, you notice, like if you're the one guy moving real slow, you notice. And so he goes faster.
Look, it happens
that's perfect. They can get rebounding somewhere else. They can get assists somewhere else. Scoring, play some defense.
Well, a lot of those lineups that he's been playing with lately, they include LeBron, they include Fando, they include sometimes Jackson Hayes, who's improved a lot as a rebounder this season. They're going to find rebounding with some of the guys that he's playing with anyway. It actually may, and some of those other groups that he's playing with, they need Rui's scoring more than the starting 5 did. So it's not just placating Rui by giving him more shots. It's actually, we need you to shoot more. We need you to put up more shots. This is why it was so frustrating to me that JJ did not seem organically interested in going this route, because it just seems so damn obvious.
Yep. It's a symbiotic relationship, Andy. All right. One guy who is not symbioticing very much right now is DeAndre Ayton. He wasn't great, wasn't super visible. I'll explain. There's some stuff, but it's been a bit of a trend where we're seeing more off nights from DeAndre than strong ones, and we'll talk about it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. There is nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moments, just seeing them all live in person. But getting tickets, that part has not always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with you, the fan. Regain your power. You can pull up the Game Time app and pick an upcoming NBA game, and you got tickets locked in within minutes. And that's with the all-in price up front. There's no surprise fees at the checkout. There's no wait, I paid for what? Once you see the charges, all that stuff, being able to see the view from the seat makes your decision even easier, especially with an app that is super user-friendly and super user-intuitive. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com.
So I've started in a lot of games, Andy, kind of, obviously you're watching Luca. Always a good idea to pay attention to Luca in the first quarter. You're checking the energy, you're looking at stuff, but in some ways I feel like DeAndre can be kind of a bellwether for what's going on. And I will say, I was kind of encouraged by what I saw early in the game. First bucket the Lakers got was Ayton keeping a ball alive on the offensive glass. LeBron corrals it, puts in a bucket. Luca drives from it was either Luca or LeBron. I forget. It doesn't really matter. But it was Luca, I believe, drives from the perimeter. DeAndre, very aware, seals off Nikola Vucevic to keep him from being able to contest that play, and it's a free layup for Dončić. There were, he was relatively active on the defensive glass early, was moving around and stuff like that. What I think was interesting to look up and look at the end of the game is you see his line, and it's 6 points, and it's 2 rebounds, and it's a -15 in 22 minutes. And some of that, I think, was just the way the game was being played. It was a lot of up and down. It was not a great DeAndre Ayton blueprint. But at the same time, we're just seeing more of these games. You go back to the Dallas game, which was a disaster for him offensively, 4 of 16 in that game. The Clipper game, 2 of 5 in 21 minutes. The Denver game, 2 of 5. Well, that was the one I think where he got poked in the eye, correct?
Yeah. I believe so.
So, it's possible actually that's still bugging him. But since that 10 of 10 game against Toronto, he's certainly not played all that well. And there've just been a few more of these kind of nothing games interspersed between the better ones that I can tell you at the very least, Lakers fans are starting to get very, very, whether concerned is the right word or critical, or both.
Or skeptical or cynical, however you want to put it.
All the Coles.
Well, there's a lot of confirmation bias for pre-confirmation bias with DeAndre Ayton's reputation heading into this game. And the reason to be at best cautiously optimistic, if not pessimistic, about this signing. The last few games, and I agree with you. I actually think the first half, DeAndre was better than his stats.
I would agree.
Defensively, I thought he actually made a few really nice plays. There was one sequence where he rushed a shot in the lane, he missed it, but he hauled ass back and bothered a hit-ahead pass to Josh Giddey, who couldn't hang on to it. It became a turnover. There was a possession where he cut off driving lanes for 2 different ball handlers, and then the second time it became a miss. So I felt like he was doing things in the first half that may not have shown up in a box score. And, I don't know how it affected his plus minus or whatever, but I'm like, he's active. Second half, he was more invisible, but also, too, the thing that got him, I'm pretty positive, benched and not reappearing in the game. There were almost back-to-back defensive sequences where I don't even want to say lost track of his man, because that would imply, at least on the first of the two involving Nikola Vucevic, that he had actually been keeping track of him at all. There was an out-of-bounds play where he basically he was looking in almost the opposite direction of the play as it was happening, and Vucevic slips past him, gets fed for an easy basket. And then there was another play where Vucevic ended up scoring, very similar setup. He went with LeBron to cover, I don't remember if it was a ball handler or shooter or whatever, but it was very clearly he was supposed to stay with Vucevic. Again, Vucevic gets a straight trip to the basket set up, and Jackson Hayes immediately went in for Ayton, and Ayton did not reappear in the game. He only played 7.5 minutes in the second half at all, which is obviously quite low. It doesn't help that Jackson Hayes is actually, during this period that Ayton has not played well, Jackson, including tonight, has played very well. Jackson also had one of the highlight plays of the game on a breakaway dunk, decided to go East Bay Funk, taking the ball through his legs, then throwing it down. By his own admission, he almost bricked it.
No, it was pretty clear he almost cooked it.
Yeah, he by both the eye test and also what he said afterwards. And I tweeted this out and he confirmed it. Basically, if Jackson had not completed that dunk, forget getting benched just for the rest of the season. He might get benched for the rest of his career. that was going to be one of those.
The Lakers might just keep re-signing him as a free agent just to punish him.
I like that. If he doesn't make that dunk, it is truly a what the hell are you doing? Now that he managed to complete it, it was, oh my God, because at 7 feet, that is really impressive. A reminder, Jackson Hayes is arguably the best athlete on this team. He is certainly in the conversation, but Jax has played really well. And that accentuates what Ayton isn't doing when your backup's playing really well.
Yeah, Ayton is a funny guy. Like, I know we were starting to keep an idea. I don't know about DeAndre. And then he turns out and doesn't miss a shot against Toronto. It is important. Like, and Ayton had company in that third quarter. This was another version where the Lakers, went with the Dallas blueprint. They modified it slightly where they only allowed the lead to get down to 1. They didn't actually let Chicago pull way ahead like they did against the Mavericks over the weekend. So it was a better version of that plan, but it's still not great. You don't want to make a habit out of that. And Ayton was part of this group that was just not focused, very slow compared to the first half. And Chicago saw the opportunity to get back into the game. To their credit, the Lakers quickly got it back out, up into double digits and never really were threatened after that. But, I feel like Ayton's sort of leash is definitely getting shorter as you go deeper into the season and the games start to become more meaningful. Scouting reports start to get a little bit more detailed. Teams are going, kind of reminding themselves, okay, you got to watch DeAndre, got to lean into him, make his life difficult, put a body on him, stuff like that. And like you say, it is not impossible. I don't think he's going to start. Like, I don't think they'll change the lineup that way, but it wouldn't shock me at all to start to see, particularly on these nights where the pace of the game doesn't really suit what Ayton does anyway, Jackson Hayes eat up a little bit, or if the matchup permits, because the Lakers have had a ton of success with this recently, they just lean into those smaller lineups.
Yeah. Although Drew Timme I felt bad for him. He is registered in the box score as having played 0 minutes. He was barely in the game when he took a pretty blatant off arm to the face. Like, he was out and left the game, didn't return. I did not see an update about potential availability against Cleveland, but I bring up Timme just because he can be a part of those small ball units or smaller ball units, and
tall, small.
And he's capable of just eating into some of Ayton's minutes anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a possibility.
As a side note, being kind of a unathletic, unassuming looking white guy dressed as a headband is a dangerous thing to do. It's like going into the woods during hunting season dressed as a deer. People are going to think you're Austin Reeves, and nobody gets hit in the face more than Austin Reeves. And so, maybe don't wear the headband if you're out there. You want people to make sure that you're not Austin. Like, between him, Jake, and AR, like, the exciting whites of the Lakers get hit in the face a lot. They take a lot of shots.
I mean, look, you got to prove that you are both worthy of being in this league, despite all stereotypes and reputations. And look, if this is what you bring to the table, it's what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
Getting hit in the face.
He was, I believe, David McMenamin updated later in the game, available to return.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
I thought I saw that from Dave, but
I must have missed that.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we'll keep an eye out for additional updates. The Lakers are back in business on Wednesday in Cleveland. Another tough test. The Cavs have been disappointing this year, but still have plenty
They're
of
playing
talent.
better lately. They're playing better lately.
Like most teams. Chicago playing better lately. They were on a 4-game win streak. Dallas was playing better lately. Lakers, Portland, when they played them, playing better lately. That seems to be the trend for teams the Lakers play. So this would be another big challenge for them and another opportunity to notch a very big win on this very long road trip. Locked On Lakers on YouTube. So we can hang out with over 37,000 subscribers to the channel. Make sure you check out the Everydayer Club in the show notes. See if it's for you, and we will see everyone tomorrow.